tell, do you see the road? I'm out to my soul into the sides whenever the smoke clear out of my face and my picture perfect. Do it.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to Cypherfics. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the first part of What If BEN10 Meets Azumanga Daioh. Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of JBoy44 on fanfiction.net. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Ben was waking up early one morning as he yawned and looked to the omnitrix, his replacement for his destroyed omnitrix. He thought about his final battle against Vilgax. It happened a month about, but it was still fresh in his mind. He rubbed his eyes and got up and dressed as he headed downstairs to see his dad on the phone. Carl said, "Thanks man." He then looked to his son Ben. And said, "Well, we have big news for you Ben." Ben looked confused, "And that is?" Carl then said, "I just got off the phone with an adoption agency, you're getting a new little sister." Ben looked stunned for a moment as he grabbed the omnitrix. "Dad, I know adoption is a wonderful thing, but you want to bring a kid into this family, where someone is a literal superhero?" Carl then patted his son's shoulder, "You saying a superhero won't be a good big brother?" Meanwhile on a plan was a little girl with orangish brown hair and brown eyes, dressed in a blue sweater, blue skirt, with white knee socks and brown shoes. This girl's name was Chiyo Mihama. Well no, it would be Chiyo Tennyson. She looked sad. Chiyo's point of view. "My name is Chiyo, I'm 10 years old who is so smart she's in high school, and last month my parents went away on a business trip and never came back. Now I'm going adopted overseas having to leave my home, at let's the airport is leading me bring Mr. Tadakichi with me." Before long the plan landed and I got up to the cargo place to pick up Mr. Tadakichi. He barked happily when I let him out of the pet holder and licked my face. And I hugged my dog, who is so much bigger than me. I then walked out to the airport to see a family holding a welcome Chiyo sign. I walked with Mr. Tadakichi to them. I wonder how this will turn out. I mean, I'm in a new country. With a new family. And what looks like a big brother. What kind of adventures await me in America? I mean, I hear they have superheroes and supervillains, but that can't be true, right? Return to third-person point of view. Ben got down and smiled, "Hi, I'm Ben, your new big brother." Ben then held out his hand and Chiyo shook it. A few weeks later. Ben was at Mr. Smoothie talking to Kevin and Gwen as he said, "I mean, it's been a quite week with no problems, but I'm more worried about no matter what I try I can't seem to bond with Chiyo. I mean, I saved the day easy but I can't even big brother." Kevin then took a sip of a smoothie and said, "Okay Ben, stop for a moment and put yourself in her shoes. You're in what is basically a whole new world, in a new family, having left almost everything." Gwen blinked as she spat out some smoothie. "That was well thought out for you." Kevin shrugged and said, "Hey, I was in Plumber Juve. They only let you read educational books to try and make you better yourself." Ben then laughed, "They made you read that? Had to be horrible." Kevin then pointed at him and said, "Watch it." Gwen then said, "Now I think Kevin is making a point." Ben then raised his eyebrow as she said, "I know, but it's true. Think back to when we were 10, we didn't get along. Then one camping trip later we were best of friends." Ben then said, "One camping trip and a summer of supervillains later you mean?" Kevin then said, "But she's right, it couldn't hurt." Ben smiled, "Well, I'll try to arrange it then." Later that weekend. Chiyo, her dog. Ben, Gwen and Kevin were setting up camp. Kevin then said, "Remind me how I got roped into this." Gwen then said, "Because I asked you to." In a moment Ben heard barking followed by a, "Mr. Tadakichi come back." They then turned to see Chiyo gone. Ben panicked and turned to Daioh and said, "Screw secret identity. Responsibly wins." He then slammed it down on Wildmutt and ran off like a madman into the woods. Kevin then said, "Can't you track her?" Gwen shrugged, we got nothing of hers here. But we have something of Ben's. She then pulled out a sumo slammer's card, a little something he brings with him for good luck. Kevin looked at it, really I keep the same card in my dashboard for good luck too. Gwen held the bridge of her nose as she said, focus Kevin, Ben will surely find Chiyo and we can now find Ben. A moment later something fell out of the sky making the ground shake. Kevin then said, a strange crash on a camping trip, and your cousin is running around as Wildmutt, I bet this brings back some memories. In the forest Wildmutt was snipping around. He picked up Chiyo and Mr. Tadakichi easily, but now he was picking up another scent, Sunder's. Wildmutt roared as he funded them in the same direction, making him turn the dial on his chest, transforming into Ultimate Wildmutt, who yelled out, Ultimate Wildmutt. He then raced off like a wild animal as he said, don't worry Chiyo, big brother is coming. Meanwhile farther in the woods Chiyo had caught Mr. Tadakichi, who was barking as she said, why did you run off? She then looked around to see she was lost and she screamed, Quad A. At that moment she heard a voice said, shut that dumb animal up. She then turned to see someone on a glider thing. He had gray skin, white hair, a double-blade energy axe, and was dressed in red gloves, a red muscle shirt trim, black pants, red boards with a black loincloth with a red belt holding it up. He held the axe tight as Chiyo's eyes teared up. Chiyo cried as she said, Eep, this thing clearly was not human, but her dog was barking at him, and in a moment he raised the axe. I guess I'll have to shut it up. He was about to swing it down. But out of nowhere there was a blinding red flash as Ben in human form jumped in, grabbing both Chiyo and her dog and bringing them with him as he slid out of the axe's path. The axe hit the ground as Ben got up and forced Chiyo behind him. You leave my little sister alone, Sunder. Sunder smirked as he feared his axe. BEN10 has a little sister, you learn something new every day. He then altered the button half of his axe's handle into a rope and swung the weapon like a flail at their way. Chiyo's point of view. I chased Mr. Tadakichi out here, meet something not human who wants to kill me, then my new big brother rushed out like a hero and saved us. And he knows its name. What's going on? I then noticed big brother messing with that thing he wears on his arm. What is it anyway? I saw little holograms of things appear on it, and I knew them from news reports. Those are those alien superheroes. In a flash I heard him say, Chiyo, I'm sorry I couldn't keep you out of this. In a moment he slammed it down as the flail-like axe came our way. In a bright green flash I watched as my big brother turned into a four-armed monkey, grabbed me and Mr. Tadakichi and pulled us out of the axe's way by spinning a web from his tail, and using the tail to pull on it as a rope, to get us to the top of a tree. He then said, Spider Monkey. My eyes widened as my jaw dropped. As I put it together, the thing on his wrist turns him into things, so he's all the superheroes. I have a superhero for a big brother. Return to third-person point of view. Ben quickly used web to make sure Chiyo and her dog would stay safe in the tree top as he said, I'll explain later, little sister, right now I have to do hero things. Spider Monkey then jumped down and said, Hey Sunder. I've gotten some new tricks lately. He then turned the dial making 4 points pop out, transforming him into Ultimate Spider Monkey. Sunder looked stunned as Ben said, Ultimate Spider Money. The ultimate alien unhooked his jaw and fired off a massive webbing bullet. Sunder jumped from his glider so that only it got webbed to a tree. He then witched his flail back to an axe and tried to swing it down at Ben. One of Ultimate Spider Monkey's spider legs blocked the axe and held it back as Ben punched Sunder in the stomach so hard he let it go as he said, You can mess with me all you want, but you leave Chiyo alone. In a moment Sunder found himself stuck in a web cocoon as the Ultimate picked him up and threw him across the forest saying, I don't care where you go, you just can't stay here. Once he was out of view, the Yuta Matrix timed out, returning Ben to normal, and he looked to see a stunned Chiyo whose jaw was dropped. Chiyo blinked and asked, How? Ben then climbed up and untied them before helling her and her dog down as he said, Well, it all started when I was 10, when this thing called the Omnitrix fell out of the sky. At that moment Kevin and Gwen arrived. Later on they were walking to the crash site as Ben finished telling his origin story, and that's my origin story, Chiyo. Chiyo's jaw was dropped. I have a superhero for a big brother. Gwen then looked to Kevin, okay, now why are we heading to a crash site instead of getting Chiyo to safety? Kevin then said, simple Gwen. 1. If Sunder wants something here we can't let him have it. 2. Chiyo is 10, you faced supervillains at 10 without superpowers and look how you turned out. Ben then added, 3. If Chiyo isn't with us she might end up alone with Sunder again. Chiyo shivered. They then came to a white pot of some kind as Ben said, okay, we were on a camping trip, I was Wildmutt and we found an alien tech pod that fell from the sky, it's official, I'm 10 again. Gwen then walked over to the pod and touched it, giving her a shock as she jumped back, ouch. The pod then opened to reveal a blonde-haired young human lady with green mist being let out by the pod which covered her. Kevin and Ben quickly turned around blushing. Chiyo blinked and asked, why is a lady with no cloths in the space pod? Ben removed his jacket, good question, but for now Gwen please hand her my jacket to cover with. Later at the campsite the woman adjusted her hair and said, once more all I know is my name is Eunice. I don't know why I was in that pod. Chiyo was blinking as she asked, then do you know what happened to your clothes? Eunice shrugged again as a happily little bird landed on her shoulder. She smiled and petted the bird while smiling. Kevin then said, this is weird even for us. He then noticed something on Gwen's hand and said, wait, what's that? Gwen looked at her hand, the one she touched the pod with. There was a small burn, it looks like a small burn. Kevin rubbed his chin as he said, I heard old DNA scanners give shocks and burns. Wait, I have an idea, just hold up here, I'm going to go head back to my car to get something. No one move. Ben then said, like we could. Kevin then ran off and as soon as he did Sunder, now covered in mud, walked up holding a laser gun and he opened fire, making Chiyo scream. But Gwen protected him with a wall of mana. Ben then quickly transformed into Swampfire as he said, Swampfire. Ben forced Chiyo behind him as she held her nose and said, so stinky. Sunder growled as he turned to SWCH on his laser gun and said, I want the omnitrix. He then fired the gun. This time its blast was stronger. So strong it shattered the mana wall and sent Gwen back flying, making Eunice run away screaming as Swampfire threw fireballs at Sunder. The uni what? Sunder then fired on Swampfire, who made the trees and plants of the forest reshape themselves to block the fire while roots covered him and Chiyo and pulled them underground. Ben and Chiyo then reappeared behind Sunder where Ben punched him in the back of the head, making him drop his gun. A tree then moved and grabbed the gun, taking it out of Sunder's reach. Sunder roared, the prototype for the thing on your wrist, boy. A DNA container able to take a sample of one species and become a member of it. Now it's taken human form, I'll have to erase its data to sell it. Swampfire's eyes widened as did Chiyo. Wait, the girl's is an omnitrix that can move around on its own. Wait, but how? She doesn't look like Gwen, and Gwen is an anodite like Grandma. Sunder then said, anodites are pure energy, they have no DNA. Your cousin's body is human as is the omnitrix. And finally the DNA is randomized to make an original life form instead of a clone. He then charged to try and punch Swampfire. But Swampfire moved his hand, making a tree grab Sunder and hold him still. Well, this got strange. He then hit the dial and morphed into Big Chill, who said his name before going ultimate and saying ultimate Big Chill. The ultimate alien then saw Sunder break free of the tree now that he couldn't control plant life. So Ben breathed out his ice fire, freezing him in a block of ice from the neck down. Sunder shivered, it's so cold it burns. The omnitrix then timed out, returning Ben to normal. Chiyo's eyes were once more wide, but they were sparkling. At that moment Kevin came up holding a broken arm with Eunice as he said, I was coming back with my DNA scanner when she touched a bear, made it fall asleep, then broke my arm with super strength. Eunice then said, you scared me. Azimuth then teleported in as he said, that's because while she does have a form now, she still has a DNA scanner which she can use to copy another species DNA for about 10 minutes till the omnitrix self-repair systems restore the DNA to base. Mr. Tadakichi was about to bite Azimuth, but the old Galvin hit the dog on the head with his cane as he said, bad dog. The dog then fell down and got up and walked away. Chiyo blinked, you're so tiny and cute. Her eyes sparkled as Gwen got up and said, that's Azimuth, the creator of the omnitrix. Azimuth nodded. I'm the smartest being in 3 arguably 5 galaxies. Now I would love to play games here but I don't have time to waste at my age. He then spotted Chiyo. You must be Chiyo, your grandpa. Me, his son, adopted a daughter, but I'm here about Eunice here. Eunice tried to run but Kevin held her back. You won't put me back in storage. Azimuth blinked. Now why would I do that? You're not a piece of tech anymore, you're a live being. That would be wrong, so Eunice clammed down. Eunice then took a deep breath. Sorry, Dad. Everyone blinked in shock but Azimuth said, well, I did make you, so I guess I am kind of your father, but you can't stay on Earth, people will be coming after you. Azimuth held his chin. I got it. You see, my prototype Omnitrix and Ben's current bootleg version storage needs are so large I had to make a planet to house all the DNA samples. I called it Primus. How about you come with me to help me run it? Eunice smiled. That sounds fun. Azimuth smiled as he hopped onto her shoulder and in a moment he said, be seeing you when I think you're ready for the finished model, Ben. In a moment he and Eunice teleported away. Later on that night, after deciding to all go home, Ben was in his bed when he heard a knock on the door and spotted Chiyo in the doorway. Chiyo was crying. Big brother, I had a nightmare, can I sleep with you? Ben then rubbed his eyes. You know, most kids run to their mom and dad when they have bad dreams. Chiyo then said, most kids don't have a superhero for a big brother. Ben smiled and said, okay. Chiyo then hopped in bed and asked, big brother, can you tell me more about that road trip where you were 10? Ben then smiled as he told the story of when he was 10. 1 month later, Chiyo was in her room writing a letter to her friends in Japan. Dear guys, I know you might be worried about me but I'm doing just fine. Chiyo then smiled as she petted Mr. Tadakichi's head and wrote, I still have Mr. Tadakichi, my new parents are so nice. Plus, I have an out-of-this-world grandpa. Chiyo stopped to think about Grandpa Max in his plumber gear. She then wrote, a magical cousin named Gwen. Chiyo then stopped to think back to her wide-eyed wonder. Every time Gwen casted a spell, she might have magic because she takes after her alien grandma, but real magic is real magic. The little girl smiled happily knowing magic was real as she wrote, and my big brother Ben, well, he's the best, but if you see him you might be in for a big surprise. Chiyo then smiled as she wrote something to each of her friends and her 2 formal teachers and finished. She then stuck it in an envelope and ran downstairs to see Ben. Big brother, I finished my letter. Ben smiled and got off the couch, and smiled, then let's take you to go mail it. 1 short car drive later, Ben was watching Chiyo jump to stick her letter into the public mailbox, while he leaned on his car, the DX Mark 10. Ben smiled as he watched Chiyo final get it in. Cute. At that point he noticed Julie walking his way as he said, hi Julie. Julie crossed her arms, don't hi Julie me. You stood me up last weekend. At that point Chiyo turned around blinking a few times in shock. Ben then said, I'm sorry, my little sister had a cold so I stayed home to help take care of her. Julie crossed her arms, just because your parents signed a piece of paper doesn't make someone your sibling, Ben. Ben and Chiyo's eyes widened. Chiyo's eyes were tearing up as she said, lady, say what now? Ben growled as he grabbed on to the Omnitrix. You know what, Julie, this has got to end. You complain because I'm never there because of the responsibility that comes with having this thing on my wrist. We break up, I feel horrible. Then I save you and you take me back. Ben saw Julie about to speak but Ben said, but now I have a new responsibility and you're telling me I don't. Well, Julie, I'm shocked it take me this long to realize something. Whatever this is between us is unhealthy. Julie was stunned as Ben walked over to Chiyo and said, you can complain about me saving the day all you want, but Chiyo is my little sister, end case. And here you come saying she isn't. Well, Julie, this time I'm breaking up with you. We're over. For good this time. Julie growled as she walked off, leaving Chiyo wide-eyed and stunned. She then saw her brother looking slightly down now that she was out of sight. What just happened? Ben looked to her and said, I just fixed one of my greatest mistakes, but I've had this mistake for so long I'm going to kind of miss it at least for a while. Ben then opened his car's back seat and Chiyo got in stunned as she said, if it makes you feel better I won't miss her no matter how cute Ship is. Ben closed the door and got in the driver's seat as he said, "Appreciate you're trying to help Chiyo, but I just need some time, and maybe something to hit." Later on at the park, Ben was sitting on a bench watching Chiyo play. As he sighed, he then heard a woman ask, "Why do you look so down?" Ben then turned to see a girl his age with dark skin, red hair tied into a ponytail with a yellow bow, yellow eyes, dressed in a green top, blue jeans and black shoes. The girl said, "Sorry, I'm Jessica Jackson, you are?" Ben then held out his hand, "I'm Ben Tennyson." Jessica shook his hand, "Now why are you so down in the dumps? Because if there is one thing my mom's taught me is to always help people in need of a friend." Ben raised his eyebrow for a moment before he said, "I just had to break up with his girl I had my eyes on since I was 12, I tried my best to win her, even changing a big part of who I was, then I got her, and she didn't like who I was. The fail nail in the coffin is she said my little sister wasn't my sister because she was adopted." Jessica jumped up, "She sounds like AB to me. My mother's adopted me, yet they are my parents. Family is more than just a bond of blood, and it sounds to me like you went out of your way to get this girl, but what did she do for you?" Ben thought it over and looked at his wrist at the Omnitrix, remembering the first time he saw Julie when he was 12 and how he removed the Omnitrix to try and be normal to get the girl. Then to the first few weeks of the relationship, how she seemed to think the thing was cool. Ben then thought how her thoughts changed when he was missing dates to save the day, and he said, "I guess just a good feeling when I finally got her." Jessica shrugged as she said, "Now I've been here before with my last boyfriend, they were all the thrill of the chase, but at the we were completely wrong for each other, yet I didn't want to let him go after all the chasing I did." Ben then smirked, "Just like me with Julie. So you turn a blind eye to the sighs, they aren't the right one till it reaches its explosive end." Jessica smiled, "See, we both learned the hard way, if you have to be something you're not to get someone, they aren't worth it." Ben got up and smiled, "Yeah, now I wish I had those 4 years of my life back." Jessica then raised an eyebrow as she spotted the thing on his wrist and the symbol on it, remembering. "Wait, that has the same symbol Cannonbolt wears. You some kind of fan?" Ben covered it and backed away a bit, "Yeah, just a fan, why do you ask?" Jessica then said, "Because Cannonbolt saved me and my mother's lives at this carnival when this wizard guy Hex showed up, back when I was 10, I want to thank him, but by time it was over he was gone." Ben was wide-eyed, remembering the carnival he battled Hex at that lead to that battle at the Fountain of Youth. "I'm sure he's heard by now that you're thankful." Jessica then said, "Yeah, but then why did he and the other alien heroes vanish for 4 years? Why did they stop saving the day and helping others?" Ben looked down at hitting him how selfish taking the Omnitrix off really was. Being normal was good for him, but being a hero was better for everyone else. Well, everyone makes mistakes, just some are horrible ones. Jessica raised an eyebrow, remember he said he wished he had the 4 years of his life back and the 4 years of no alien heroes. Then to the thing on his wrist. "Wait, you gave up 4 years to chase this girl who was wrong for you, and thing with the symbol and 4 years of no superheroes." Jessica's eyes widened as she covered her mouth for a moment and Ben looked pale. "Oh my God. You are," before she could finish Ben heard Chiyo's scream and saw people running away around him. Ben then spotted Rojo, who was firing lasers from her the wrists of her armor. "Come on out, freak. I know you most live here. All the reports of your different face here. You have to be here. Now come on out." Chiyo then tried to run but tripped and Rojo smirked as she pointed the wrist. Month laser at the downed and crying Chiyo and said, "If targeting a kid doesn't bring him out, nothing will." In a moment Ben roared and rushed, the Omnitrix dial popping up at Cannonbolt. Ben's point of view. "I saw Rojo point a weapon at my little sister. I saw Cannonbolt's hologram and it slammed it down. The park was mostly empty. The only ones who would see me change was Chiyo, Rojo, and Jessica, who was behind me. As I transformed, I rolled into a ball form and dashed off, grabbing Chiyo and pulling her into the ball. Right as the laser fired, I saved my little sister but confirmed my secret identity for someone else. Well, she seems like a nice girl, hopefully my secret is safe." I then unrolled and pushed Chiyo behind me as I growled at Rojo and put my hand on the dial and said, "You just crossed a line, Rojo. You want to fight me so bad, then fine. But I'm going all out. With a turn of the dial the 4 points came out and I went ultimate. Once I finished my change I yelled, ultimate cannonbolt. Return to third-person point of view. Jessica hide behind a tree watching, so awesome. Rojo growled and tried to fire only for Ben to raise his arm bouncing the laser off one of his armor plates into the sky as he said, lasers are light. And anything that shines reflects light Rojo. Even I know that. Ben then rolled into his spiked metal ball form and charged off at high speed hitting the girl dead on knocking her back and cracking her alien armor. Rojo tried to get up but before she could ultimate cannonbolt charged at her, this time she used both hands to push him away. Ultimate cannonbolt hit a car making its alarm go as he bounced off it and ricocheted back at Rojo with greater force hitting her so hard her armor cracked into piece leaving her a normal powerless biker girl. Ultimate cannonbolt to rolled and picked her up. You can mess with me all you want. But you leave my little sister alone. The ultimate then returned 2 normal cannonbolt who gave her a backhand slap that knocked her out. Cannonbolt then dropped her and returned to being Ben as the thing timed out, I'll leave you for the cops. Ben then ran over to Chiyo who was hiding behind a tree. Ben then got down to Chiyo and hugged her, Chiyo are you okay? Chiyo hugged back and said, yeah just a little scared. Jessica then ran out and said, awesome. She then bowed and said, don't worry your secret identity is safe, but please let me buy you a smoothie, to thank you for saving me and my mom's lives when I was 10. Ben smiled, okay. Jessica then said, and I agree with you giving up being a superhero so you could be normal just so you could go after that girl was a big mistake. Chiyo's eyes widened, that's why you took it off. Ben then said, I was blinded by a crush, Chiyo trust me I'm never taking this thing off again unless I'm forced to. Jessica smiled as she said, that's right everyone has to be their self, or in your case yourselves. Because I'm thinking that you have the symbol of all the heroes and that thing transforms you, you have got to be them all. Ben nodded, yeah. Later on that night in Japan. Sakaki was in her bed sleeping having been the last one to read Chiyo's letter. As soon as she was asleep found herself in a field, dressed in brown pants a sweater and black shoes. At that point Chiyo Shishi the strange dream cat that claimed to be Chiyo's fatherland before her and she bowed, it's been a while hasn't it? The dream being then said, why yes it has, mostly because I haven't been need, and won't be need for a while more a goodbye for now visit Miss Sakaki. Sakaki raised her eyebrow and said, why are you not need? Does it have to do with Chiyo not being in Japan? The cat laughed and said, oh that has nothing to do with it at all, it's simply she doesn't need me watching over her or you guys anymore. She has her older brother to watch after her now. Sakaki then said, yes his name is Ben. The cat thing then fell on the ground rolling around laughing making Sakaki raise her eyebrow, did I say something funny? Chiyo Shishi then got up and said, yes you only know one of his name. Ben has many names for his many face. Chiyo already gave you a clue about it when she said if you see him you might be in for a big surprise. Sakaki looked confused but the cat continued one, it starts when a device, stuck itself upon his wrist, oh the secrets that it hid. From that day forth he was no ordinary man. Sakaki's confused look grew as he said, one could even say he is ever shape and size. Now as much as I would like to just up and tell you, you won't believe me unless you put it together for yourself. Chiyo Shishi then took to the air, the truth is out there and if a 10-year-old can figure it out surely you and as well Miss Sakaki now goodbye. At that moment Sakaki wake up in her bed panting and spotted her computer open to a site about the aliens in America. Sakaki got it up and walked to it, I didn't leave this open, no way this alien thing can be real. But she sat down at her chair when she saw something. She looked a picture of an alien marked Humongosaur and in the corner she spotted a little girl who kind of looked like Chiyo. Sakaki blinked, what? She then read more and noticed each one of the aliens had the same symbol on them. Before long morning came and she rubbed her eyes. Sakaki put a hand to her chin, he's almost ever shape and size. Her tired eyes widened as she said, no no no. That can't be right, people can't transform into something else. Sakaki then looked at her desk at the picture Chiyo sent. She included a picture of herself with her new family for each of them in her letter. Her eyes fixed onto Ben's wrist where she saw the same symbol as the aliens. Okay now. This is getting spooky. She then saw the clock and realized she was up most of the night on this site and got up to try and wake up and get ready for school. It can't be true, it can't be true, it can't be true. Sakaki was so tired and her mind won't let go of this idea. She walked right past the cat named Kaminiko who she should normal try to pet even though he would bite her hand. The cat looked shocked and confused. 1 month later in the middle of the desert, the sun was setting. Chiyo, Kevin, Gwen, Jessica, and Ben were gathered. Kevin was helping Ben set up a telescope as Kevin asked, "Why are we here again?" Ben then said, "Because Chiyo want to watch the meteor shower," as did Jessica. Then Chiyo asked Gwen to come, and Gwen asked you. Kevin finished setting the thing up with Ben as he said, "Fair enough." As the sun finally vanished revealing night. Miles away form then Ian appeared holding his head and growling, "Damn you Prime. Damn you Ultimate. You've ejected me from both your timelines. Who knows how long it will take for me to find my way back to them." Ian then sensed something and head towards it, heading up a hill, and looking down he saw Ben, Gwen, Kevin, some girl he had never seen before, and a little girl. Down below Chiyo was jumping to try and reach the telescope's eyepiece. When Ben slammed down the Ultimatrix's dial and became upgrades and said, "Let me give you a hand Chiyo." In a moment upgrade merged with the telescope making it bigger and lower so Chiyo could see out of it. Chiyo smiled and said, "Thanks big brother." Gwen crossed her arms, "When did you get upgrades back?" Ben then morphed a little head on the thing and said, "Before me and Julie broke up I scanned ship and re-unlocked him. Next month when SEC Manny, Helen, and Alan. I'll scan them to re-unlock Heat Blast forearms and XLR8. Watching Ian backed away, a universe where I have a little sister. What madness is this? In a moment Ian fired off a purple energy blast at the ground making everyone jump. In a moment upgrade unfused with the telescope and pushed Chiyo and Jessica behind him. Gwen's hands glow pink with mana, as Kevin touched a rock and absorbed stone and morphed his hands into mace. At that point Ian jumped down and said, "Death to all BEN10s." In a moment upgrades fired off an optic blast as Ian knocked it away and clapped his hands summon an army to attack them. In a second Gwen made a mana dome around her. Jessica and Chiyo, "Guys, these things don't have mana, they are not alive." Kevin smirked as he smashed one of them, then no holding back. Upgrade then fused into one of Ian's robotic henchmen, upgrading it, making it larger and giving its purple energy sword a green color as he rushed at Ian. "What's this to all BEN10s thing?" Ian made a purple energy sword and crossed blades with Ben as he said, "You surely remember your visit to an alternate future when you were 10. I travel the multiverse hunting all who ever held the omnitrix." Gwen then said, "Wait, you mean the multiverse theory? That makes sense as the future Ben didn't remember us meeting him." Kevin then said, "Wait, you guys time traveled without me?" Gwen dropped her energy dome and fired off energy blast destroying more robots. "It was in the summer when we were kids, you were still a supervillain." Jessica then blinked, "What's multiverse theory?" Chiyo then said, "It a theory that says if you time travel you make an alternate universe, and an alternate universe is made every time you make a chose, one for the chose you made and one's for the chose you didn't make." Gwen then made another energy wall to hold back the robotic henchman. "How can you be 10 and get that theory?" At that moment Soon Robot jumped over the wall and was about to slash Chiyo, and as the little girl's eyes widened in fear, but unlike normal Ben wasn't the one to save her. Ben turned around to try and fire an optic blast at the robot to destroy it before he could. Ian fired off a time ray that made the machine rust and fall apart into metal powder. Benz then turned to Ian, and while Ian wasn't focusing on the battle slashed his helmet and said, "Why did you just save my little sister?" Ian backed away as his helmet fell off. He then looked up and upgrades eye widened at what he saw. Without helmet Ian's face was revealed. It was a paler version of BEN10,000s, and he said, "Simple rule one of the multiverse, there is always a universe where the hero is the villain." Kevin's eyes widened as he smashed robots and said, "This is just like that episode of Sumo Slammers. Gwen was speechless. Okay, now wasn't ready for this. Jessica's eyes were wide. Evil shouldn't be that handsome. It just shouldn't. Chiyo's eyes widen. An evil version of my big brother from another dimension. I will never forget this. Ian then held his hand out, rewinding time around his helmet to restore it and summon it back to his face. Ben backed away. You're me. And you want to kill me? What the hell kind of self-hate is this? In a moment Ben timed out form upgrades, making him fall on top of the robot he had taken over, breaking it. Ben got up and tried to change, but the Utah matrix was in the red. Ian then held his blade out. Goodbye, big brother Ben. He was about to slash Ben, but then Professor Paradox appeared holding the blade back with a cane. Professor Paradox then pushed Ian back. Sorry I'm late, I got lost in the multiverse. The professor then touched Ben's Utah matrix, making it go green before slashing the icons from multiple aliens. You're timed back in. I also gave you all your old forms back and a few new ones just to PSS off Azimuth. In a moment Ben found himself transformed into Clockwork, making him look at himself. Paradox then said, You're Clockwork, an alien with all the same powers as Ian, that include time rays and the power to send beings out of this timeline. Clockwork then held out his hand out and tried to hit Ian. Ian then fired off his own time ray to push Ben's back. Boy, I've MSTR this powers. You think you can beat me from having them for only a moment. Paradox then put his hand on Clockwork, boosting the power of Clockwork's time ray as he said, No, but he can still win with a little helping hand. Goodbye, Ian. Ben's time ray then pushed back Ian's, and when it made contact with Ian, the bad Ben vanished. Ben then reset the Utah matrix to return to human, and he looked at Paradox and asked, How? How can I be the bad guy? Paradox then looked down as pulled out his watch and showed an image of a death Earth. It's simple. Ian comes from a negatron-filled corner of the multiverse. The negative energy in it reverse everyone born. There's natural alignment. The images the watch showed changed as Paradox told his story. Chiyo blinked. You mean the bad guys are good and the good guys are bad? Paradox nodded. Quite right, Chiyo. Chiyo looked confused, making Paradox giggle. I'm sorry, from your point of view this is our first meeting. I am Professor Paradox, space-time and multiverse traveler. Paradox then waved to Jessica. Hi Jessica. Jessica just waved. Ben then asked, So I'm just the bad guy because everything is reversed in one corner of the multiverse? Paradox nodded. I know that's not the answer you were looking for, but it's true. Kevin then asked, If Ian is an evil Ben, then why doesn't he have the omnitrix? Paradox then said, Simple Kevin, it was destroyed. C's last battle with the omnitrix was himself as Clockwork versus a heroic Vilgax. Vilgax was losing, so he launched the self-destruct against Ian. Gwen then blinked, a reverse of our final battle against Vilgax. Paradox nodded, yes, and the blast combined with Clockwork's power made it so Ian was left with all of Clockwork's powers, along with the natural immortality that all us fourth-dimensional beings have. Ian's later grow bored in his own universe and started traveling for the best challenge he could think to face, himself. Paradox then finished the story and his watch's last image was Ian fighting Ben 10,000. Paradox closed it, and that's Ian's backstory. The professor closed his watch and put it into his coat as he vanished, just as the meteor shower Ben and gang came to watch started. Chiyo then fainted, as Jessica said, Yeah, I think that's how we all feel right now, Chiyo. Kevin then said, But I don't get it, if Ian is an evil Ben then why did he save Chiyo? Ben then said, That's pretty clear, Kevin, even as the bad guy I still love my little sister. Meanwhile, half a world away. It was daytime in Japan. And Sakaki was on that alien website again looking at old newspaper clippings that were all over 6 years old. One showed Diamond Head fighting 4 arms. Wait, how can he fight himself? She then noticed that Diamond Head didn't have the symbol. No, that is just another member of the same species. Sakaki then rubbed her eyes. It's been a month and I still can't let this go. There is no way. No way. Or am I just trying to make myself believe that, as I don't want to accept the truth? Sakaki then spotted a photo someone took from the park in her neighborhood. of a member of Diamond Head's race in an armored body suit fighting some kind of robotic crab man at night. Sakaki smiled as she noticed it looked like Diamond Head was shooting crystal shards. This is perfect if I go there and find a shard or not will prove which is true and what's not. She then headed out the door and entered the part. There wasn't any trace of a fight, but she noticed something shining in a tree and walked to it. She pulled it out to reveal one shining crystal shard, making her go pale as she looked at it. Sakaki held it fight while shaking. It's all true. She then spotted two men in black suits looking at her or the shard, and she paled and ran off. But before she could make it home, a black car pulled up and three men in suits and dark sunglasses pulled up and pointed alien-looking guns at her and said, "Get in the car." Sakaki paled as she got in the back seat shaking. Later on, Sakaki was in a dark room sitting at a table while a man in a plumber suit, with a black dome over his head keeping his face hidden, sat down beside her and set the shard on the table. "Do you know what you found, girl?" Sakaki was shaking. "A government cover-up. Please, I won't tell anyone. Besides, who would believe me?" She was crying a bit. The plumber then said, "It's not that simple. We checked your records and you have a friend in a high place." Sakaki was still shaking with fear. "You mean Chiyo? Whose big brother has that shape-shifting thing?" The plumber nodded as he placed a white badge with a red spot in the center on the table. "Yes. Now we're not blaming you for finding the shard, that is the cleanup crew's fault for not doing their jobs. So here is what's going to happen. As you did nothing wrong, we're going to let you go." Sakaki then raised her hand. "Okay, but what's the catch?" The plumber then removed his helmet, revealing an alien face with pure black eyes, no hair, green skin and horns, no nose, and he said, "But as you figured out two top secrets in the space of 2 months, congregations, you've been recruited." Sakaki paled more and nodded, "Okay." In a moment the alien handed her a white badge with a red spotted, "Welcome to the plumbers." "Girl." Sakaki was wide-eyed and paled. 1 month later. Orbiting around the Earth was a spaceship. Inside, Ben, Gwen, Kevin, Max, Jessica, Carl and Sandra were around Chiyo wishing her a happy birthday. The ship was filled with party decoration and Chiyo was smiling, looking out a window at Earth, smiling amazed at it. She spotted another ship. On the other ship was Manny, Helen, Cooper, Alan, Pierce, and finally Sakaki. Sakaki was looking nervous. She was in her normal clothes looking out a window at the planet. Alan looked at her and said, "First time in space, rookie?" Sakaki nodded quickly, feeling a little odd as they docked with the larger ship. Manny then grabbed a lot of wrapped boxes in his forearms as he said, "Well, I got our gifts for Ben's little sister." A door then opened as they walked into it, and in a moment Ben greeted them saying, "Thanks for making it, guys." Pierce then smiled and shook Ben's hand, "Don't mention it." Sakaki then spotted Ben and looked at him, knowing full well the power on his wrist, and how he didn't let it go to his head. She blushed a little. Ben then held out a hand to her and said, "You must be Sakaki. Chiyo's told me a lot about you." Sakaki blushed as she moved her hair behind her ear as she shook his hand nervously. "Yeah, and I've read a lot about you." Ben smiled as he spotted Cooper and pulled him aside. "Hey Copper, I need your hand with something." He then rolled up his sleeve to show the Matrix. "Every time I got Ultimate I've been feeling like I used to when I transformed into Ghost Freak." Cooper then smiled as he looked at it. "Say no more, let me have a look." Sakaki watched as Cooper's eyes light up as computer code flashed on them. Sakaki tilted her head as she saw a part of the Matrix open, revealing wires and circuits rewiring and rearranging themselves inside side before the thing closed. Ben then made a fist as Cooper said, "The evolution function had a glitch that was giving the evolved DNA strains their own continuousness. I fixed the glitch so it can't happen again and set it to release the already self-aware transformations free next time you go Ultimate." Ben smiled and said, "Thanks, I'll get right on it once the party is over." Sakaki just walked away. "What did I just watch?" She then spotted Jessica, who was on her phone. Jessica was saying, "Mothers, please, I'm just at Ben's little sister's birthday. I'll be back before night time." "Okay, love you both too." She then hung up and said, "I'm just shocked I have service up here." Sakaki was then hugged by Chiyo, who smiled as she said, "Miss Sakaki. Sakaki hugged back as Chiyo said, I hear you became a plumber like Grandpa. Sakaki nodded, yeah, I also figured out your brother's secret form pictures beforehand. Manny was putting gifts away, before he walked off to say, okay, now I have to go get the gift the hybrid supreme sent. He then rubbed his back, it was hard enough getting it in. Ben then said, I wonder how Riney is doing, it's been so long since I last saw the guy. Sakaki then blinked, I read about the hybrid and you are calling one by such a silly name. Max then walked by as he said, Rian Rasik 3 allows Ben to call him that because he views Ben as a close friend. That set him off on the path that lead to him being his race's leader. Sakaki blinked, how can all you've done? All you can do not go to your head. How can you not have an ego larger than a planet? Ben crossed his arms as he said, simple, I don't do any of it for me. Chiyo smiled, that's what makes Big Brother a hero. Manny then came in pushing a box as big as him, what is in this thing? A hybrid weather station. The box then opened revealing a mini hybrid weather station and Manny's eyes widened, it is a weather station. Ben then saw a card that was written in badly spelled English with some letters backwards as he read, sorry I could not make it to your younger sibling's birthday in person, Ben Tennyson my friend. As I don't know much about humans, I send this mini weather station as a gift. I hear young members of your race like to play in show. And this mini station will make it snow over a small area, after being charged with sunlight for an hour. Ben then turned it around and read, also sorry if my writing in your long is horrible, I thought it best to write in your long as a token of friendship. Chiyo then looked at the power meter and said, and it's charged. She was about to hit the start button but Sandra stopped her, Chiyo, I think this is an outside gift. Sakaki's eyes widened, is that really a gift? Later on Carl was pulling the cage out and Alan waved his hand lighting the candles, 11 of them, as everyone started singing Chiyo a happy birthday. Chiyo smiled as she thought of a wish and blow out the candles, and smiled. Chiyo's point of view. As I blow out the candle I made my wish. I put thought into my wish, I wished that someday the world would be ready for aliens and everyone could see my big brother for who he really is. A hero. I smiled. Later on I was big brother as I held a letter in a bottle, it was a letter to my BRTH parents telling them how much I miss them, and not to worry about me as my new family is amazing and I have the best big brother ever watching over me. I was tearing up so big brother put his hand on my shoulder. I then smiled and put it into the trash chute and sent it into space smiling, I hope they see it. I then hugged my big brother crying a letter as he got down and hugged me and I heard him say, don't worry Chiyo, I'm sure they are happy and I'll make sure nothing happens to you. I then smiled. Return to third-person point of view. The ship they were having the party on was landed on Earth in the desert. Out in it Ben quickly turned into Echo as he turned the dial and went ultimate making a blinding green flash happen. Ben was frozen as his mind was inside the Utah Matrix looking at ultimate forms Cannonbolt, Humongousaur Wildmutt, Spider Monkey, Swampfire, Big Chill, and Echo. Ben then pointed to the formed door and said, go you're free. Ultimate Humongousaur then grabbed Ben by the shirt and said, you are just letting us go. Like that. Ben then said, yeah I mean that's why there is a door. I understand you're mad. I didn't know you were alive in here till earlier but no I do so there you go. Ultimate Echo then said, just let the guy go, we're free now, besides he only used us to keep people and his younger sister safe. The Ultimate then walked out the door with Ultimate Wildmutt at his side. Ultimate Cannonbolt then rolled out as he said, just let it go Dino boy. Ultimate Spider Monkey then followed, yeah a grudge won't get you anything. Ultimate Swampfire just walked out as he said, told you he would let us out if he knew we were in here guys. Ultimate Big Chill then left as he said, yes you told us so. Just don't rub it in. Ultimate Humongousaur then let Ben go, I spent all my short life hating you for being trapped in here and controlled. Ben then dusted himself off, and I didn't know you were in here now go, he then pointed to the door, you wanted freedom there it is. Now get a move on. It's my little sister's birthday and I would like to spend it with her. Ultimate Humongousaur then morphed his hands into their gun forms, I don't trust you. In a moment Ben slammed down on his wrist, morphing into way big as he said, "Get the hell out of my watch." Way big then kicked Ultimate Humongosaur out through the glowing door. In a moment Ben was back in the real world as Way Big, looking at the now free Ultimates. All of them no longer had the Unimatrix symbol and their eyes were red. The former Ultimate Humongosaur rubbed his head as he laid on the ground. Ben then returned to human form and said, "See, it wasn't a trick. Now you guys just hang here, we have ships going to take you guys your home planets, well most of you, Cannonbolts was destroyed so you're going anywhere you want to." The former Ultimate Cannonbolt then said, "I'm going to need to think on that." Later on, when the freed Ultimates were gone, Ben had his arms crossed as he said, "This could have been really bad if we didn't handle it now." Gwen nodded, "Yeah, and normally you won't have cared enough to look into this." She crossed his arms. Ben then said, "I have more to look out for now." Kevin then was eating cake as he said, "You mean Chiyo?" Ben then nodded, and in a moment a snowball hit him in the face, making him fall over. And everyone looked to the ship's door, Chiyo holding a massive snowball as the inside was covered in snow around the mini weather station. "Got you, big brother." Gwen then made an energy dome around her and Kevin. "I know where this is going." In a moment Ben was XLR8 and he had made his own snowball and he threw them at Chiyo. "You just made a mistake, little sister." Chiyo then throw more snowballs. Kevin rolled his eyes as he kept eating his cake. "I don't know what's going to give me a cavity faster, the cake or this." The next day in Japan. Sakaki was leaving school when she bumped into Mr. Kimura. The creepy-looking man made Sakaki's eyes widen as he adjusted his glasses. "Relax, Sakaki, I respect my fellow plumbers." Sakaki's eyes widen. "You're a plumber? Are you an alien?" Kimura nodded and looked around. "Sure, let me remove my ID mask as no one else is around." He then removed his mask and Sakaki's eyes widened. As the shadow of something with tentacle-like hair casted over her, making her run. Sakaki was running like a speeding bullet. "I understand what his wife sees in him now, and I wish I didn't," she then shivered. Sakaki's friends then noticed how pale she was. Osaka then said, "Miss Sakaki, you're whiter than our gym shirts." Kagura then said, "You okay?" Sakaki shivered. "I saw something I shouldn't have." Tomo then jumped up and put a hand on her shoulder. "Come on, it couldn't have been that bad." Koyomi then adjusted her glasses. "What was it?" Sakaki shivered as she said, "Let's just saw I understand what Kimura's wife sees in him. And it is unclean." She then shivered as everyone's eyes widened. Osaka then said, "Oh my. What is it, do tell." Kagura covered her mouth. "No details." 3 months later. In Ben's high school, it was the last day of school before summer. In the classroom, B was looking at the clock slowly tick, waiting for the time to change and for the final bell to ring. Jessica was also in the class, look at the clock then to a watch she had on her left wrist. "I think that clock is slow." The male teacher was packing up and he said, "No talking in class." Chiyo was also in the class, sitting on books to fit at the desk as she looked at it while miming to Ben the turning of a dial, then pointing to a clock, to a man at work sign and slamming down a dial. Ben shook his head, getting what she was meaning. He pulled out a flashcard of the word irresponsible to her, then point to the Unimatrix. Jessica then point to her watch and slammed on it, then point to Chiyo before doing a begging pose. Ben then looked away, holding his heart as he spotted Chiyo doing to do. Thankfully for Ben, the final bell rung and everyone ran out of class screaming with joy. While walking, Ben put his hands in his pockets as he looked to Jessica and Chiyo. "That double team was not cool, you two." Jessica then whispered, "Not our fault, you have such high morals that stop you from using time control to hit fast forward as clockwork." Soon they came to Ben's car, and as Ben unlocked it, Chiyo got in the back seat as Jessica got in riding shotgun. "Doesn't matter, it's summertime, and we're free of school." Chiyo buckled up as she said, "And we are going to Japan." She smiled happily. Jessica looked back to her, "Really now?" Ben nodded. "Yeah, a few months back Grandpa pulled some strings to give us her beach house back so she can speed some time with her old friends." Ben clearly wanted to avoid bringing up the issue of Chiyo's BRTH parents. Jessica crossed her arms. "Think my mothers will let me tag along?" Chiyo then said, I don't see why not, I mean they know about Big Brother's watch. Ben and Jessica then stuttered for a moment, as they had a flashback. Flashback at Jessica's house. Ben was wrath moving a couch, while one of Jessica's moms who had tan skin, black hair and blue eyes, dressed in black jean shorts, cowboy boots, a white lawn sleeve shirt, with a black vest, on over it, she also had a cowboy hat. Jessica crossed her arms, really having my superhero boyfriend move the couch for you? You know this isn't right, Mama Jessie. Jessie smiled and said, yes, but what's the point of my daughter dating a superhero if we can't have him give us a hand or four? She then laughed at her own joke and Wrath laughed at the joke. Wrath then said, is this good yet? Wrath's been at this for the last 9 minutes. Wrath was growling a little, holding in his annoyance, as he lifted the couch up with his hands as Jessie said, a little to the lift. At that point the Utamatrix timed out, making Ben drop the couch as he returned to human, and it fell right through the floor into the basement. Jessie's eyes widen. Ben, any chance you could maybe turn back the clock to undo this before my wife comes home? Ben then looked at it as he turned the dial to clockwork, but before he could slam down he heard a scream and turned to see a light-skinned one in an orange sweater, long blue skirt and flat shoes. Her green eyes were twitching with rage as she undid a ponytail in her blonde hair. Jessica then said, Mama Lucy, please calm down. Lucy removed her earrings as she threw them to Jessie. Dear, hold my earrings, I have a superhero to fight. End flashback. Chiyo blinked at the story ending and said, she attacked my brother. Ben then said, she tried, but I turned into XLR8 and ran. I mean later when she was out again I went and fixed the color and the couch, but Lucy, she still be mad at me. How long can she hold a grudge anyway? Jessica then said, let's see, she still holds a grudge on her ex for cheating on her, and that was 20 years ago. So good luck around her, honey. Ben rolled his eyes as he rolled to Mr. Smoothie, and said, well, before I drop you off, Jessica, dare for a smoothie my treat. Jessica smiled and said, sweet talker. She then gave Ben a kiss and got out. Ben smiled and blushed while Chiyo made a grossed out face, yuck. Meanwhile in Japan, Tomo, Koyomi, Osaka, Kagura, and Kaorin were secretly following Sakaki. Tomo then said, an operation figure out where Sakaki has been going after school is a go. Koyomi adjusted her glasses, this is an invasion of privacy. Besides, it's not like we are going to find anything interesting, this is Sakaki for crying out loud. As she said they, Sakaki stepped into an ally and pulled a white badge with a red spot out of her pocket and looked around before putting it on the wall, making a secret high-tech looking elevator open. She then got in, making it go down and close. Koyomi's eyes were widened as Tomo said, and what was that about not finding something interesting? Kaorin's eyes were widened, Miss Sakaki. Osaka then put on her happy dumb face and said, guys, do you think she is some kind of secret agent? I mean, we did just see her enter some kind of secret base. Kagura's eyes widened, she's making a point here. Tomo raised her hand and turned to the group and asked, okay, all for forgetting what we saw? Everyone's hands went up and Tomo said, okay, we agree this didn't happen. Osaka then pointed, turn around. At that point Tomo turned around to see Kimura holding the same kind of badge Sakaki had as men in black suits point guns at them. Girls, you're going to need to come with us, you found things you should have. That's very naughty. All the girls paled as Koyomi raised her hand and said, please rephrase that. Kaorin screamed, never. She then went to kick him, making a strange mask fall off, making Kimura change form man to alien. Kimura's true form had green scaly skin, behind his glasses his eyes were solid yellow, his mouth fanged teeth, his hands only had 3 fingers and a thumb. His hair was a mess of purple tentacle-like hair strains. Every one of the girls' eyes widened as they hugged and started shaking while Kaorin was hyperventilating in fear. Kimura's tentacles hair then picked up and put back on the ID mask, returned to his human form. Now you saw 2 things you should have. And it's so lucky no one was around to see that. Osaka was shaking as she said, and what your wife sees in you. Tomo was crying, please leave us be. The mental scaring is punishment enough. Koyomi then nodded, yeah, we won't tell anyone you're a tentacle monster. Please leave us alone. Kagura was on her knees begging, please do a memory erasing thing. Kimura adjusted his glasses, but machines can't do that, and we don't have any one of the cerebrocrustacean race to do it. That's what makes this tough. Kaorin was crying, please let me go. I'm not even a main character. Later on, all 5 girls were in an interrogation room when Sakaki walked in full plumber uniform and said, you girls really stepped in it. Koyomi then pointed at her, what is this place? What is Kimura? What are you? Sakaki sighed, in short, a secret intergalactic police base. Kimura is an alien, like the ones from America that are all over the internet, and finally I'm human, but I was kind of drafted because I pieced together the biggest secret on the planet. Osaka gasped, what's the secret? Sakaki then adjusted her hair and said, can't tell you, it is highly classified, and besides that I don't think most of you are space cop marshal. Tomo then got up and pointed at her, objection. You let me dream about being global police when space cop was on the table. I demand to join or at least get a recommendation to the academy. Kaorin was swooning, Miss Sakaki so much cooler than I thought. Kagura then screamed, now what the hell is going to happen to us? Sakaki moved her hair behind her ear, you're going to be let go as you only saw an alien and a secret base, very normal things no one believes, but you're officially all under police watch, and have a charge of interfering with police operations. And Kaorin, you also have a charge of assault on an officer. You're lucky Kimura isn't pressing charges or you would be sent to the worst prison in the galaxy, so thank him for not sending you to space jail. Kaorin gulped hard and was shaking, do I have to? Sakaki then said, intergalactic prisons are co-ed, and have no guards, it's just the inmates fending for themselves doing whatever they want to each other. Kaorin paled and her eyes were wide as her head twitched, okay, I'll thank the tentacle thing. Sakaki then pulled out a gas mask, now we are going to gas you guys to put you asleep, you'll wake up at home with a tracker band on your wrist, which will fall off in a month. Gas then entered the room knocking the girls out cold as Osaka said, nighty nighty Sakaki. Sakaki then rolled her eyes and sighed. Later on a public plane was Ben, who had a sleeping Chiyo next to him, behind him was Jessica, who was sitting next to Jessie. In front of Ben was Lucy, who was looking back at Ben with daggers in her eyes. Across from Ben were his and Chiyo's parents Carl and Sandra. Ben looked to Lucy and touched his Omnitrix and whispered to her, I can just erase your memory of the event, but I'm not, because I care about your daughter and want to make it work. Lucy then whispered, I know this, Ben. I know you're a helpful, kind-hearted young man who has the power to do anything, but only use it to protect, and doesn't let it go to his head. I know this. I know if anyone would be good for my Jessica it would be you. And that's why I don't like you. Because you're dating my little girl. I respected you. I'm glad you make her happy, but you are still dating my baby. Ben then said, I can respect that, but can you at least keep the hate to be minimum? Lucy then said, I will hate you till there is a ring on my daughter's finger and I have grandbaby. Ben then blushed as he said, you have my respect. Lucy nodded, you likewise have my respect. Once the plane the Tennyson and Jackson families were flying on landed. Ben was out and stretching as he said, hopefully this will be the one time going to a beach doesn't turn into an adventure. Jessica was rubbing her neck as she said, tell me about it. It's like the Tennysons are magnet for the weird. Chiyo then said, but that's what makes us special. Sandra then patted Chiyo's head, that's right sweetie. Carl smiles as he grabbed his bags and said, now come on, we have got to get a move on. Jessie adjusted her hat and yawned, why does flying make me so tired? Lucy was stretching her legs, why did we even have to take that thing, we could have had first-class top-secret travel, that was faster. Jessica rolled her eyes, Mama Lucy, you don't get the idea of secret identity, do you? In a moment they all grabbed their bags, and walked along to see Chiyo's old gym teacher Naomo holding up a sign saying, welcome back Chiyo. In a moment Chiyo ran up and hugged Naomo's leg, Naomo-sensei. Naomo got down and hugged the little girl before Chiyo smiled and held her hand out introducing them all, these are my new parents Carl and Sandra, my new big brother Ben, his girlfriend Jessica, and Jessica's mom Jessie and Lucy. Naomo blinked at the last part and said, "What?" Lucy grabbed Jessie's hand and said, "Something wrong with that?" Jessie rolled her eyes, "Most you do this? I mean it's Japan, you know where they stand, on this?" Lucy then looked at her wife, "Well, I like to tease and mess with people, is that so wrong?" Jessie crossed her arms, "Dear, grow up." Naomo blinked for a moment to her. Jessica and Lucy were replaced by herself and Yukari. She shook her head, "Let's move along to the rental van, I have to get us all to the beach house." As they walked, Naomo noticed Ben pulling one of his sleeves down to hide something on it, and she looked confused by this. "Chiyo, what's up with your brother?" Chiyo's eyes widened as she panicky said, "Nothing, he just does that when he's nervous." Naomo blinked at how strangely Chiyo was acting. As they all got in the van and drove off. Once at the beach house, everyone got out to see Yukari smiling, while Sakaki, Kagura, Yomi, Tomo, Osaka and Karen were on the ground pale and shaking at having traveled with Yukari. In a moment Sakaki out up and bowed to Ben, making everyone look confused by this as Ben returned the bow. In a moment Tomo, Yomi, Kagura, Osaka and Karen huddled and spoke. Tomo then said, "Sakaki knows Chiyo's brother. So they would have had to meet before this. Like say on the job." Yomi then said, "Are you saying Chiyo's new brother is a space cop?" Osaka then said, "Let's go ask him." Kagura then said, "We can't do that, Osaka, they don't know we know, we can't let them know, we know." Karen then asked, "Say what?" Tomo then said, "She means we can't just ask because he will think we are just being silly and lying, we got to catch him doing space cop stuff." They all nodded and broke apart. Later on the girls were all in swimwear. Sakaki in a yellow bikini, Kagura in a blue one, Osaka was in a black one-piece, Kaori in a pink bandokini, Yomi was in a two-piece that had a skirt. Chiyo walked out in a pink one-piece followed by Jessica in a green bikini with a number 10 on the right BRST, and she blow Ben a kiss. Ben blushed, he was still in his normal clothes just watching. Lucy walked out in one piece that had a skirt around the button that was orange in color and said, "Great, my baby takes after my wife." Jessie then walked out in a red bikini and asked, "And what's wrong with that?" As Lucy and Jessie began to argue, Yukari, who was in a red two-piece, began to mumble as to her she saw herself and Naomo. Naomo was in her school swimsuit and looking at Yukari, who looked back at her. They then looked to Lucy and Jessie, then back to each other. Meanwhile, away from the two teachers, Tomo was in the water as she pointed to Ben, while she whispered to Yomi, "Look, he's not changed, for the beach that seems pretty alien to me." Yomi then said, "He might just have body issues, that isn't enough." At that moment Sakaki was laying on a towel relaxing with a blushing bright red Karen next to her. Sakaki noticed Osaka and Chiyo playing with a beach ball. When Osaka missed and it went into the food, she went in to get it, but she came running out with no ball saying, "Giant frog." Yukari then said, "Osaka, there is no such thing." In a moment a giant mutated four-eyed frog jumped out and Yukari went pale, and I stand corrected. While everyone was running, Chiyo tripped and fell face first into the sand, making Ben rush out as he turned the omnitrix dial to 4 arms. The people who didn't know his secret then looked on in shock as Ben slammed it down and transformed. Ben's skin became red as he lost his nose, his hair turned black and formed a ponytail, his eyes became pure green as they split into 4 and a black line formed down his face. Ben lost his pinky fingers and gained a second set of arms as he grew larger and stronger. His clothes then changed, his shirt being replaced by a gold 2-strap HRNSS with the dial in the middle. His pants turned black and were now held up by a gold band around his waist. He had gold pants around his ankles and no foot were showing his 2-toed feet. He gained fingerless gloves held on by gold bands. With his transformation complete, he yelled out, "For arms," and in a moment he punched the giant frog away from Chiyo and said, "Get away from my little sister." Yukari, Naomo, Osaka, Karen, Tomo, Yomi, and Kagura watched with their eyes wide. Sakaki then reached into her bag and pulled out a blaster as she said, "And you just learned the biggest secret on the planet, Ben, is all those alien superheroes." Lucy then yelled, See, this is what I'm talking about. He wants secret identity but he keeps revealing it to people. Is he even trying? In a moment a mutant seagull came down and Sakaki shot it in the stomach. With her laser pistol as she pulled out her plumber's badge. Where are these things coming from? Back with Ben. The frog got up and tried to jump tackle 4 arms but Ben was holding it back with 3 arms as he said, first mutant has to be Ayumu. Second, he's gotten better at this. I need to go ultimate. In a moment 4 arms turned the dial with his free hand and slammed it down, making him grow a foot taller and more muscular. He gained a new set of arms bringing him up to 6. His knuckles gained spikes as he gained 2 spare face, 1 on the left side of his head and 1 right side. The new ultimate then spoke. The left face, who looked happily said, "Ultimate." The middle face, who looked angry, growled out, "For." The battle cry was then finished by the right face, who looked sad, who sadly said, "Arms." Ultimate 4 arms then grabbed hold of the frog with all 6 of his arms, slammed it into the ground, then throw it a cliff, knocking the thing out. Chiyo's jaw dropped. I think I have a new favorite ultimate. Sorry, Ultimate Wildmutt. At that moment the mutant seagull fell out of the air into the sand as Sakaki span her blaster around with a smirk. Yukari and Naomo, being the only ones completely lost, were hugging and shaking out of fear. Osaka then said, "Chiyo's big brother is a superhero. And Sakaki is a space cop. What are the chances?" A voice then said, "Not what I had hoped, but it's still about time you had a checkup for him, Dr. Onimo." Everyone then looked to see Dr. Onimo sitting on the back of some kind of mutated winged flying squid. Chiyo gasped, "He does talk like that, creepy." In a moment Ultimate 4 arms returned 2 normal 4 arms, before he hit the dial and turned into Heat Blast. Heat Blast formed fireballs in his hands and said, "What are you doing stalking me? Doesn't matter. I've been burning squid since I was 10, you really think your flying plate of calamari can take me?" Dr. Onimo then said, "Thanks to my pets distracting you I now have 2 great shields." The mutant then moved his tentacles to reveal it had Carl and Sandra in its arms. Chiyo screamed, "Mom, Dad." Heat Blast's eyes widened as he said, "You son of a foo, you are so lucky I can't course in front of my little sister. Leave my family out of this, you freak." Then said, "Come on now boy, you know I won't do it. And you know what I want is your watch." So stocked full of new strains of DNA, he then licked his lips in a creepy way that made everyone shiver. Heat Blast then stood in front of Chiyo, blocking her view as he said, "Hey, cut that creepy stuff out. A child is around." In a moment a beeping sound was heard and Ben said, "I hate that sound." In a red flash Ben was human again. Onimo laughed as his mutant flew off. "Boy, if you want your parents back you follow my mutant's trail of ink to my lair and come alone." Ben growled and ran off, and while most everyone else ran inside the beach house no one noticed Chiyo's secret following her big brother. Yukari was picking up the phone, "We need the police." Lucy then stopped her and said, "Naomo, please explain to your girlfriend the police won't help us get 2 people back from a mutant flying squid and the mad scientist who made it." Naomo and Yukari blushed and said, "We're not a couple." Everyone else then looked confused and said, "Really? We thought for sure you 2 were." Jessie then said, "First this sounds like a closet case to me, but wait." She then looked around and asked, "Where is Chiyo?" Meanwhile in the forest Ben was following the trail of ink when he stopped and said, "I know you're there, Chiyo." Chiyo then walked out and said, "But I want to help save Mom and Dad, do Big Brother. Besides, you know there is a trap waiting for you. He's just going to capture you and use the Matrix to make scary monsters, because you can't risk hurting Mom and Dad." She was crying and Ben got down and hugged her. Ben then looked to the Matrix which was in the green and he said, "If you want to help I just got a star-bright idea." Ben then hit the black button making it enlarge and come off his wrist. Chiyo's eyes then widened as Ben handed it to her and said, "He doesn't know it can do this so he won't see someone else being the alien hero coming. I was younger than you when I got the omnitrix, Chiyo, can I trust you with this?" Chiyo saluted and said, "Yes, Big Brother, sir." So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 2. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author jboy44 on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.